Okay, first there was one.
What?
Then there was a few.
What?
Now we're up to over 3,000 former and current female athletes, led by Riley Gaines, into forcing the NCAA to grow a pair of balls.
It's true.
And say women's sports are for women, and for you dudes who like to feel pretty, well,
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
you guys can get bent.
You can eat these nuts.
I'm Jasper Gonzo, and this is What's Next. Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jasper Gonzo. What's Next? Your daily dose, common sense, facts, and salt. Hope you guys are feeling good today, of course, as we go into the weekend. Like I said in my intro, it started out with one. Then it started out with a few. Now we're up to over 3,000 former and current female athletes, led by the Savage herself, one Riley Gaines, who of course is most notable fame is getting beat by a dude who feels pretty in a major college swimming event. But now she's been on the tour. She's been touring the country the last 2 years because of nonsensical bullshit like men who feel like women, who think they're women, who decide, hey, you know what? I suck at the men's sports. Let me get involved in women's sports and dominate. That's where we are. So, of course, there's been lawsuits that have been filed, of course, by Riley Gaines and others against the federal government. Of course, now we have this over 3,000 who have signed this affidavit, who are trying to petition the NCAA into forcing them to grow a set of balls, saying, hey, you know what? You need to step up and say, hey, let's make it definitive. Women are for women's sports, men are for men's sports, and if you don't like it, get bent. Simple, clear cut, to the point. Wow. Of course, it's the NCAA, and nothing is as clear as it seems, or easy as it is. And here we go. This comes out of Outkick. Over 3,000 current and former female athletes, coaches urge the NCAA Board of Directors, or Board of Governors, should I say, to protect women's sports. The NCAA Board of Governors plans to meet on Thursday, actually yesterday, so we don't know the decision yet. Or the agenda is discussion as a possible vote on the issue of whether to include transmental men in women's sports, Outkick has learned. Our Bodies Are Sports Coalition sent letters and emails to the NCAA board members and over 3,000 current and former female athletes, coaches, urging the NCAA to protect women's sports. More than 78,000 personalized emails and letters have been sent to members of the NCAA Board of Governors in the last week alone. Wow. Talk about a movement. It's not yet known if the Board of Governors plans to hold an actual vote on the issue during Thursday's session. The NCAA Board of Governors comprised of 16 members, including presidents of universities and athletic directors from Division I, II, and III, among other members. According to Our Bodies, Our Sports Coalition, male athletes have stolen over 924 trophies, medals, titles from women and girls across 448 competitions, different competitions in over 30 different sports. And that's just in the last few years alone. Wow. Wow. And while the stealing trophies is a problem, it's not the only issue that's allowing male who feel pretty in women's sports. Unfortunately, incidents like biological males competing in women's sports are happening more and more frequently, and that's pathetic and sad. It may be easy to ignore the injustice while the athlete doesn't command a trophy, but it's an injustice nonetheless. I sincerely hope that the members of the NCAA Board of Governors will put a stop to it. Paula Scanlon, an independent women's forum ambassador and former University of Pennsylvania swimmer, told Outkick. The Our Bodies, Our Sports Coalition includes 12 different women's groups from across the political spectrum. To them, this is not a political issue that this should be divide people along party lines. It's a common sense issue that their bipartisan groups agree upon. Men don't belong in women's sports. Period. It's not hard. It's not hard. But when you're politically correct or you're woke, well then, that's on you. Quote, athletes work our entire lives to compete in sports, only to have the NCAA destroy our even playing field. Adriana McLam, a spokeswoman for the Independent Women's Forum and former Division I volleyball player, also told Outkick. The NCAA members of the Board of Governors had let me and countless other females, those who aspire to compete at a collegiate level, and the current former NCAA athletes down. Women are losing their life-changing opportunities that myself and countless other females were afforded. See Title IX. One of the greatest female athletes players of all time, Martina Navratilova. Yes, the legend, one of the GOATs herself. I practiced and competed against men in mixed doubles during my decades on the professional tennis tour. But I didn't take those experiences to convince me that our common sense is correct. Men and women are built differently. So we require our own sports category to win, to make money, to create a legacy. Fact, fact, fact. And while the fairness competition is very important elements of not allowing males who feel pretty or to compete in women's sports, there are other reasons why the inclusion, yes, diversity, inclusion, equity of transmental athletes put female at risks. Upon this point, the NCAA explicitly violated Title IX and its original intent by openly and actively discriminating against women on the basis of our sex as it pertains to opportunities, privacy in the area of undressing, and safety or sports. Riley Gaines, former All-American swimmer and host of Outkick podcast Gaines for Girls, said, "The NCAA is prioritizing inclusion over safety and fairness." According to Our Bodies, Our Sports, the NCAA has no policy on single-sex locker rooms or travel accommodations. Voyeurism and flashing are criminal offenses against women, and yet we still see them. And yet the NCAA has taken no action to protect the privacy of female athletes and has failed to conduct any serious study or emotional psychological impact on women of allowing transmentals into women's spaces. The NAIA issued a ban on dudes who feel pretty competing in women's sports, which the coalition hopes will encourage the NCAA to adopt a similar policy. They were the first major sports body to basically say, yo, you know what? Yeah, you guys want to run around like Bruce Jenner's? Not happening. Not in here anyway. The NIAA has put Charlie Baker and the NCAA to shame, Penny Dance, CEO and president of Concerned Women for America, told Outkick. NCAA female athletes continue to be exploited under the NCAA's woke inclusion agenda and its illegitimate policy promoting males on women's teams. On the other side of the issue is an organization called Athlete Ally, which brands itself as queer sports advocacy group because, of course, you have to have your yin towards your yang. They have written similar letters to NCAA Board of Governors, attempting to persuade the board to continue to allow dudes who feel pretty in women's sports. Yes, the mentally ill to compete in women's sports. It is important to note that while they claim that more than 400 current and former professional collegiate athletes across the sports have signed this letter, I'm going to call bullshit on that. It's unclear how many of those female athletes are currently affected by the issue. They promote the Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird signing the letter, for example, but both athletes have retired from their respective sports and don't stand to lose opportunities to biological men. Yes, and they were supposed to start something for Netflix, and yeah, it's trash. According to the Washington Post, Athlete Ally also sent letters to sign more than 300 academic scholars and researchers and more than 100 queer advocacy organizations. Yes, that's a thing. There are more than 100, and it should be no surprise to anybody. It is 2024 after all. Organizations with similar demands. Because clearly no one understands fairness in competition like academic scholars and researchers and queer advocacy organizations. Good for Riley Gaines. Good for Martina Navratilova. Good for the over 3,000 current and former female athletes who are pushing the NCAA, once again, like I said earlier, to grow a set of balls and to say, you know what? This shit stops here. We cannot allow this inclusion, diversity, equity to continue in women's sports because it's literally destroying women's sports. And then currently, as we've seen, Dementia Joe basically wrecking Title IX by allowing transmentals into the mix, because they have to have their fair share too. This is absolute bullshit. Absolute bullshit. It shouldn't have taken this. Lawsuits pushing the NCAA, it shouldn't have gone to this length to basically do what's the most common sense thing. Women's sports are for women, men's sports are for women, and there is no line. The line shall not be blurred. Period. End of story. But when you crack the door open, when you open up Pandora's box, shit like this is going to happen. And shit like this is going to continue to happen whether the NCAA says, hey, you know what? Yeah, we're going to put a rule in. Just like the NAIA, we're going to put a rule in. Yeah, we can't have this going. It doesn't matter. It's not going to stop with them. You gave them an inch. They're taking miles and miles and miles, and they don't give a fuck who they run over. So God bless Riley Gaines and others who are fighting this fight, fighting the good fight. But sadly, it's going to continue. And with that being said, I'm Jazz Berganzo. This is What's Next. Want to see more like this? Please leave a comment below. Like it, share it, subscribe to it. Hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a thing. Continue to watch the show. Appreciate you guys watching. Spread the word. And we'll see you next time. Peace.